Hey, it's great having all of you joining us live right now. We especially want to thank all our media partners who are carrying the show in addition to us at Autoline.tv. Want to give a shout out to all of you in the chat room who are monitoring it. Especially love having your help in that. We're still going to do rapid fire tonight. Remember, if you want to get a question to us, email it. We're not going to be able to handle any kind of phone calls tonight because we're going live in New York City, and you know how to get it to us. Send it to viewermail at autolinedetroit.tv, and we'll get going here in just a minute. Remember, you can get the podcast of this at the iTunes store tomorrow. Just look for Autoline After Hours.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, your journey, our passion, and by Chevrolet. Chevy runs deep.
This is Autoline After Hours with John McElroy, episode 144 for April 5th, 2012. It's cool to be at Katz's.
It was more than a car to him. It really was his baby.
Oh, no. That's my old Chevy. Dear God.
Hey, we're going to have a great show tonight, but before we get started on all of this stuff, we got to give a special thanks to some of the people that got us out here tonight. Special shout out to Lincoln and to Nissan, and then we've got to give a lot of credit to the folks that are making it possible for us to come to you live tonight from LiveView. And in fact, we've got Ken Zamko from LiveView here to explain a little bit of what this technology is all about. Ken, come on in here.
Hey, John.
First of all, it's great to have you with After Hours with us here.
Thank you, and welcome to New York.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this LiveView technology. What is this stuff for those who don't know?
Sure. So traditionally the way to produce and transmit live video was to go via satellite trucks and so on. But those are very expensive solutions, and also they're not always very portable because they have to have line of sight. What we do at LiveView is we make much smaller devices that bond together a number of 3G and 4G cell phone connections, and we're able to obtain the bandwidth necessary and the stability necessary to transmit very high quality video from anywhere, even on the move.
So, I mean, this is literally like having a satellite TV truck that you can take around with you.
Exactly, except it's lower cost, and yeah, it's much more portable.
Now, I understand that some automakers are using this too. Tell us about what's going on with that.
Yeah. So we've actually had some great success in the auto industry. Right now, actually, there's a show that's produced by Ford and Team Detroit and Profiles Media called Escape Routes. It's actually airing on NBC and also online.
And this is people traveling all around the country in a reality game show thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, competition, and they're using LiveView to take that to TV.
Exactly, yeah. So they have 6 teams that are competing and driving around the country in Ford Escape cars, and they're streaming online with LiveView. So each one of the cars has a LiveView unit in the back, and everything that happens in that car while the contestants are driving around is streamed live, and then people at home can actually interact with them. So they tweet and they give them feedback and they help them in the different challenges.
Yeah, and just to prove it's live, we're going to let this ambulance go by before.
And there's a few other examples, and I think there's also a lot of other potential uses for the auto industry. Whether you have a lot of dealerships and you want to provide training remotely, if you have something on the manufacturing floor that you want an engineer remotely or an executive remotely to have eyes in real time and see what's happening, all these are uses that can be very relevant, as well as, of course, new model launches and just anything that would have to do either with production or training or just the marketing and promotion of new car models.
Now, you're taking this technology to another level. We got to show the folks right now. They're looking right now. Explain what they're looking at.
Yeah, so right now they're looking at our LU60 backpack This is our flagship product. It's a device that bonds together 6 or more cell phone connections, both on 3G and 4G. This device has been around specifically for a little over a year, and it's a continuation of the backpack product line that we've had for a little over 3 years now. And now we're actually releasing our new product family. So this is the LU40. It is essentially the same thing.
Here.
But
Yeah, you, I'll hold the mic and you continue talking.
Yeah, so instead of being in a backpack form factor, it's much smaller. It actually can clip to the camera operator's belt so that you have the camera plugged in right here. Much more portable, much easier to move around with. And the other advantage is also because it uses fewer cell phone connections, and because the hardware is in a different factor, then it's also a lower price solution. So I think it opens a variety of opportunities for organizations that traditionally did not produce live video or did not produce a lot of live video. And you know, whether it's the more traditional media usage, whether it's television or guys like you that have their shows, or whether it's whatever other kind of remote video acquisition type, I think that's a great opportunity.
Well, Ken Zemko, thanks so much for showing us this technology, and it's cool to be able to actually be using it to do this show live in the streets of New York City.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Cool. That's great. And we're not just going to do this whole show standing out on the sidewalk. Norm, show them where we're at right now, because this is Katz's Delicatessen. It's one of the coolest delicatessens in the city. And come on, we're going to go inside, show you a bit about that, and then we're going to get the show going. This way, sir. Right here, Norm. So,
hi, John.
Alan,
Hi.
we got to hold on. We got to get the microphone right under your chin there.
Welcome to Katz's.
Yeah. So tell the audience who you are.
I'm Alan Dell. I'm one of the owners of Katz's. We've been here 124 years in the same location, and we pretty much make all our own products.
Well, tell us a bit about some of those products.
The hot dogs sitting on the grill right there were stuffed in our plant yesterday, delivered this morning. They're all beef with a sheepskin natural casing. The sandwiches, the pastrami, which is
delicious. I know from firsthand experience.
Grandpa's recipe. We make it by hand. It takes about a month to make, which includes both the pickling and the smoking. We just keep it in the line going every day. We get raw meat every week. The pickles that come with the sandwich, they're old-fashioned recipes too, done in the back. The mustard you put on the sandwich is made in the basement. It's a deli-style mustard, a little tang to it, and we're very proud of it. You know how when Pride and when they built cars in the olden days, and they really did it by hand and wanted it to be right. That's our philosophy.
And I love the fact you serve beer here too.
Well, there are about 26 different beers on tap.
Unbelievable.
Including one that we brew our
so you can eat real well and you can drink well. You can have a great time here.
Absolutely.
Alan, thanks so much for showing us all that. We got to get back and start the show. Thanks for letting us in here, man. Yeah, you bet. Norm, let's get the show going.
Why would they let you hold the microphone?
Okay, and for anybody who's wondering what's happening, we're going back into the back part of Katz's where we've got a little setup to do the show. Oh, we've got our live audience here. All right, people. Great having you here.
Hi.
Hi. Jason Vines, you don't look like Peter DeLorenzo.
That's right, I'm much better looking.
Yeah, we should explain. We had hoped Peter would be with us tonight. He got called back on a business trip. He wasn't able to be here with us. We'll have him back with us tomorrow night, however. So how you doing?
I'm excellent. Glad to be back in New York.
Keep that mic right up by your mouth.
Glad to be back in New York. It's one of my favorite shows.
So any longtime viewers know that we started the show with Jason Vines, and then you went and moved out of town.
I moved to Grand Rapids and worked for the largest Bible publisher in the world. I didn't know there was crisis in the Bible, but there was. So we helped them relaunch that without a crisis.
And the rest of us thought it was hilarious that Jason Vines went to work for a Bible publishing company.
And it was now my name. I slipped my name in the New Bible translation. They didn't catch it. So I actually talked with one of the translators who became, he's a minister, but he's a theologian and he's a real scholar. And I asked him when we were done, I said, is there any way you can slip my name in the Bible? And my mom would be really proud. He goes, what do you mean? Vines is in there 18 times. So
it's true.
It's true.
True to the vine.
But I enjoyed it. It was a great company.
So you left there and did what?
Left there and joined Fleshman Hellard, a large PR firm based in St. Louis, around the world, focusing on crisis communication, but also back into automotive. And I do some work, and Fleshman does work with General Motors.
And for those who don't know, Jason also worked in public relations at Chrysler, Ford, Nissan.
That's it.
Who else did you get fired from?
No, got fired from Ford with Nasser, quit Chrysler, and left Nissan to go to Ford.
To get a promotion.
To go to Ford, and then the Firestone tire crisis started, and that's what I did for 2 years. I know everything there is to know about tires.
And crises.
Yes, so, and I've got the lack of hair to
show it.
To show.
To prove it.
Yes.
Well, enough of all this talk. Let's talk about what's been going on this week, because we're here for the New York Auto Show. And I got to tell you, this is the best New York Auto Show I've ever been to, ever. I mean, and it's almost knocking on Detroit's door, which I think in the U.S. is the biggest show. But I can't believe how many new cars were revealed here.
30 some, I believe.
Well, yeah, but I mean really new.
And there were some major ones, especially in the sedans. Lots of really breakthrough sedans or very meaningful sedans. Also, the thing you love about New York is the weather is good here. Usually during the New York Auto Show.
Unlike Detroit,
which
freezing cold, it's Arctic conditions.
And the reason Detroit's always had the show in January, at the worst time of the year, when the city looks the worst, when you can't get around due to the snow, is because back when the show was started, it was a slow selling period for the dealers, and the dealers paid for the show, and they said, let's do an auto show now to gen up hope. Well, that's past. And I know when I was at Chrysler, we were trying to get the date changed. Let's have it in May in Detroit, which is a beautiful time of the year in Michigan, but they won't.
May, June, July, August, September, anytime but
anytime in January. It's insane.
Right. But let's talk about some of the cars that came out. Name one. What pops into your mind that stood out in this show?
Well, for a company I helped work with, General Motors, the Impala was a major car.
Well, let's talk about why. I mean, what really did this for you?
Well, the vehicle started in 1958. Few automotive monikers last that long. And it was a breakthrough car in 58, and a breakthrough car in 59, all the way up through the 60s. Always a great seller. And to be honest, if you're being honest about General Motors, over the last 10 years, it's been a great car for Hertz.
Yeah, a fleet car.
Yeah, and fleet's good business sometimes. It was a very competent car all these last 10 years, but nothing to write home about. Nothing exciting about it. And this one is tremendous looking on the outside, but even more important, it is killer on the inside. So,
well, remember too, the models that they had on the floor there were the LTZ, which is the up level model of the Impala. So I still want to see what a base one looks like, but I agree with you totally. The leather, the stitching, the use of materials, everything on the car were absolutely first rate.
That whole segment's getting a major redo, and I think GM's going to do really well. And then their crosstown rivals, Ford, the Lincoln MKZ.
Right.
Is drop dead gorgeous.
Right.
It's just, now we talked before the show, their crossover SUV.
The MKT.
They got to get rid of that car. It looks like a cow catcher. It's so ugly. That new grille on the Lincoln works good on the cars. It doesn't work good on the crossover vehicles. But the MKZ was stunning.
Well, let's go back to the Impala a minute, because what I find interesting is right now, something like 70% of all the sales go to fleets. You know, government agencies, the daily rental companies, corporations, and the like. You know, not even 30% are retail customers, people who walk in the showroom, put down their hard-earned money, go for sticker price. And with the new design, they want to flip that entirely. They want to go to 70% retail, maybe 30% fleet. And I think that's a real telling goal that Chevy has set out for itself on that car.
The unfortunate thing is we crap all over fleet.
And we
should not, because for a lot of times it's the first time somebody can get into that car, and it's a rolling advertisement. Now, unfortunately, over the years it's been done badly in fleet. It's strip-o models.
Well, think about it. That's because, you know, the Detroit 3 had so much capacity. They had to fill those plants. They just blew them out the door. They discounted them like crazy to the daily rental companies. I don't know if most people know this, but Hertz, Avis, Alamo, the rest of them, they'll keep a car typically for about 6 months, and then they sell the thing. So here you have a nearly new car that was severely discounted. They're just trying to dump it, and it hurt the value of new cars at the same time. That's when fleet was bad.
Right.
But I think those days are over.
Yeah, and these guys and gals are making smarter pushes for getting we call good fleet.
Yeah.
And so I think that switch from 70 to 30 to 30-70 to 70-30 is going to be popular for GM. I think it is a very important car for General Motors, considering their lineup of cars is the best they've ever had. I mean, the Cruze is a great car for the money. Sonic is doing well. They've got the Spark coming, the mini car, a micro car that actually fits 4 people and your stuff.
A-class.
It's
A-size.
well, and you look at the other vehicles. The Fiat 500 has been an unmitigated disaster.
Well, I don't know. Last month they didn't have half bad sales.
Well, but because the previous months they had more than half bad sales.
This is true.
And the vehicle came out as a chick car, which if you're a chick car out of the box, you're dead. I think they made a mistake with the Jennifer Lopez ad. Now they have Charlie Sheen hawking their product. Talk about going from one swing of the pendulum to the other. And I think they could recover, but I think where GM is going to be good with the Spark is that car can actually take people and some stuff when you're driving it around the city.
Hey, going back to the Impala, though, you know, GM thought, here we're really going after the full-size market. But I got a chance, I know you didn't see it today, but I saw the new Toyota Avalon, and I was knocked out. This thing shows that when Toyota puts its mind to it, really can style a good-looking car. And what I find very interesting is the styling of the car was not done in Japan. It was done by Kevin Hunter's group in California, where Toyota's got a studio. All the engineering, they tell me, was done in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where Toyota's got a big engineering center. And, of course, it's going to be built in Kentucky. So, I mean, here I think GM thought, boy, we're going to be able to kick Toyota's teeth in with this car. And it's going to be a dogfight out there because the Impala looks terrific. I'm telling you, wait till y'all get to the public days of the New York show and see the new Toyota Avalon. That car is awesome. I didn't know Toyota really had it in them to not just build cars that last a long time, but build cars that have passion in the styling.
And around that same area of the floor is the Mazda stand, and their concept, I read it wrong the first time. It looks like Taker 1. I think it's Takari. But Taker 1. It is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous vehicle. And you and I talked about it. The Honda Accord concept is on the early part of their stand, and I've been very critical of Honda over the last few years. I think they completely lost their way. I think they may be getting their way back because this thing is beautiful. It's aggressive looking. So we've got that from Honda, they got that from Mazda, got that from Toyota.
And, you know, we should talk a bit more about Mazda because they've had that big sort of smile grill, lower grill on the front end of the car that some people like it, you know, but I think the public has spoken and not enough did. But this new this Takari or Taker 1 is really a concept car for the next generation Mazda 6. And I agree with you. It's a great looking car. And Mazda's got some really good technology, you know. They call it Sky Active, which I think is one of the dumbest names anybody could have come up with. But even though the name is dumb, the technology is not dumb. And, man, they're getting hybrid levels of fuel economy without going to all the expense of making a hybrid.
I hope everybody will go to the show and go into the Mercedes stand and credit Mercedes for, I think, having the most beautiful car on the planet, the CLS. And they've got a blue and a bi-turbo. I mean, I drool when I look at it, and then go to the edge of their stand and see the chocolate brown SLS and tell the Mercedes representatives to shoot themselves in the head for bringing this brown car. It is so god-awful ugly. Tell them, do not bring this to market, because the SLS is a gorgeous piece of equipment.
I didn't see the brown car, but I like Mercedes styling. I know a lot of my colleagues think that they're not doing a very good job these days, but I like the look of their cars.
Yeah, the CLS, when I first saw it a few years ago, I thought it was the best looking car I'd ever seen, and it's got even better looking. The lines are just so sexy. It's expensive as hell, but it's just a drop-dead gorgeous car.
And then Nissan, too, came out with the new Altima. It's their top-selling car. Last month they did 41,000 units in the American market, and that's a big number. That's a big number these days. And they've completely redone this thing. I think it's pretty impressive. I like the look of it.
For the money, I would argue that over the last decade that vehicle has been the best vehicle in this market for the money.
Nissan Altima?
Time after time. It has been such a bargain. It's such a good-looking vehicle. It looks like it costs $10,000 more.
Fleet car. They sell a lot to fleet.
But there's good fleet too. Well, I think what happens when you get into an Altima and you haven't been in one in a rental fleet in Florida, and you go, "This is a really good car. I might shop." That's the right way to do fleet, by the way. So, but I did also see the Infinity concept vehicle, which looked like 7 different designers in 7 different studios designed a portion of it, never talked to each other, and then got together and put the car together and said, "Oh, why did you go that way? Because I went this way."
It's a real busy design.
It's
real busy.
It's just a head scratcher.
The one thing I do like about it is there's a lot of scalloping in the body sides, and I like seeing a lot of that sculpture. I like them taking the time to be able to draw that steel out in that way. But I would agree with you. It's a very busy design.
Let's talk about my old employer, Chrysler. I thought the Viper is just fantastic. Excited about the car. You know, it's an incredibly small market. Very low. I was at a Viper owner event last night, and they were auctioning off hoods and, paying $2,000 for, a hood you're gonna put on your wall, and your wife's gonna yell at you and go, "You idiot!" $2,000 for that. But they're hardcore passionate. I mean, I went to the Goodbye Viper event at the Connor plant, was it a year and a half, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
And, I mean, these are fanatics, loyal fanatics. They just bleed Viper. Even some that had, I helped launch the product back in '92 out in California. You were probably on that press preview.
Yes.
And I remember we had 4 vehicles. We were at the Peninsula Hotel. Tim Allen, actually, the show Home Improvement was just starting, and he joined us for each wave of the journalists and had dinner with us. But 2 days prior to the event, the first wave of journalists, we were driving the car around the desert, getting the roads down and everything, and we brought the vehicles back to the hotel, went down in the garage underneath the hotel, and took the side sills off where the exhaust pipes, the original Vipers, the exhaust came out of the side, because we were burning our legs when we were getting out of the car. Well, they had wrapped the exhaust pipe with Nomex, which I think Phillips 66 developed. They used it on the space shuttle.
Every racing driver knows about Nomex because racing suits and racing underwear, which almost sounds like an oxymoron.
I've got some on now.
It's made out of Nomex.
And they had wrapped the exhaust pipes with 4 layers of Nomex.
And it was still burning your legs.
When we came back after a day of driving, they took the side sills off. The Nomex was gone. It hadn't fallen off. It had evaporated. There was so much heat coming off. And that's why in later years of the Viper, the exhaust pipes came out the back.
Well, they're back out the side again.
Well, goodbye legs.
But what I liked about the Viper is, number one, I think it's great that Chrysler's doing this car. I mean, this is going to be a low-volume car. If they sell 2,000 a year, they'll be happy. And as you know, 2,000 in this business is nothing. So here's Chrysler that's got to do all these things, all these brands, and yet they've taken the time to revive the Viper, a halo car for the brand. And I think it shows a lot of guts for the company to do that.
It's weird that some of these times these companies lose their way. When I was at Nissan, I joined in '98, and there was no Z. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
And you played a role in bringing that back.
That's because the Z, if you remember, they made it into a supercar. And so it went from an affordable sports car to a $35,000 car in the mid-'90s, and the market for that was nothing. and it killed them, much like with the Toyota Supra. And so when I got to Nissan and met with Jerry Hirschberg, I go, "Where's the Z?" He goes, "It's right up here." I go, "Let's get it out." And we got out a concept vehicle, which was a little crude, but when they actually went into production with that car, they later created the G35 or whatever Infiniti, which was one of the finest cars that Infinity's ever had, came off of that Z platform. But when we showed it to the dealers in concept form in 1998, a couple of them here in New York cried because they realized, they'd put their life in Nissan dealerships, and they finally saw the passion coming back. And you don't always have to make a lot of money on these cars. It just shows you have a pulse here. And that's where we come back to Chrysler and the Viper, because when the Viper first came out, it was like, wow, these guys can do this?
And the other thing that's interesting about the new Viper, it's 100 pounds lighter than the outgoing Viper. And they've added, I want to say 40 more horsepower. So they're down to, I think, roughly 5 pounds per horsepower, which is damn near rocket ship technology or power to weight kind of a ratio. So the performance of this car is going to be awesome. The old Viper was kind of a coarse car, to put it politely. So this new one, they haven't softened it up, but what they say is they don't want to call it refined. Ralph Gilles, the designer and the guy who runs SRT, has said don't use the R word, but it's going to be better developed than the old one is.
Well, they made a mistake a few years ago, like the second generation Viper. They moved it more towards a Corvette. And we said, no, don't. Come on, you cannot compete head-to-head with a Corvette. Is an incredible piece of machinery and technology. This is crude American muscle car. You got to keep that, make it a little safer and easier to drive. But I think that's where they've gone, and I think this gets an outstanding 2 miles per gallon or something like that. No, but it's good to see that coming back for Chrysler. There's some confidence. There's a little swagger back there.
I got to tell you, I didn't go to every single press conference because we were doing different interviews and stuff for Autoline Daily and the like. But I did go to the Viper press conference. It was jam-packed. I mean, there were more people there than at any of the other press conferences I went to. And Ralph Gilles is the head of design at Chrysler, and he also runs the SRT brand, which it's no longer a Dodge Viper. It's now just an SRT Viper. But what I loved about Ralph, he's one of the coolest guys in the business, is he went out and did the whole presentation. No notes, no PowerPoint, no teleprompter. We go to so many of these press conferences, and somebody in a suit gets out there and says, "Oh, in the third quarter, sales were up by 3.7%, and you want to blow your brains out. You don't want to hear this stuff." And Ralph got out there. He's laughing. He's running around the stage. He's doing all this stuff, talking about it. And I heard more than a few people say that was the best presentation. And again, like you're talking about, the passion of having a car like that, here's an executive that is almost giddy in the way that he's presenting the car to the media.
Well, he's a true believer, and the industry, I'm glad we still have the Ralph Gilles of the world, because there are some, if you read a lot of accounts of the auto industry, and now with high gas prices, and people have lost their passion, and kids are waiting longer to get their driver's license, they care more about their cell phone or their smartphone or whatever, then I still see a lot of passion about getting a car. And if we, as an industry, buy into that, oh, people are losing their passion, it's going to show up in design, it's going to show up in performance, and I think that's sad. And we're finally starting to see a little bit of showmanship again in the shows. We're starting to see a little fun, a little hey, this is kind of
well, you're the guy who had the most fun in doing all those reveals. You had the cattle in Detroit and
the humping cattle.
The humping cattle. And what was that clown troupe that I love so much and can never remember the name of?
Slava the Clown. It was here in New York. Our guys from Clear...
No, it was in Detroit.
No, but it was here off-Broadway. There's a show called Slava the Clown. And our guys from Clear Blue, the agency at the time, saw this show where he creates this massive snowstorm with paper and jet engines. And he goes, this is the coolest thing. So we did this at Detroit. And they were mimes and stuff. I hate mimes. But it was really cool. And at the end, he created this snowstorm that opened up, and it literally blanketed all the thousands of journalists. You could not see. And we snuck the Chrysler Aspen out, so when the snow settled, here was his vehicle. and we got a standing ovation from half of the journalists there. You wrote about it the
I
next.
did.
You were
No,
quoted saying it was the greatest press conference you'd ever seen.
Best one, best new product reveal I've ever seen in my life. And that's when I got it, that, you know, you don't have to roll a car out there and say, oh, here's the engine and the suspension and the price and the fuel economy. Have fun with it. Entertain the people. To this day, it was the best reveal I've ever seen.
And I hope we get back to doing that, because it's putting the show back in the auto show. And, you know, we always did it to say, have some meaning in your little gig you're doing. Not just do something for the hell of it. I know, I think GM or Ford a few years ago, they were trying to copy Chrysler and being creative, and they had Jack Palance doing it, and it didn't fit. So just don't, and to be honest, we got wayward in we got some setup with a bunch of Hollywood stars. We had Eva Longoria at one of our reveals, and she forgot her one line. I mean, like, you don't need that kind of stuff. But have fun. People enjoy going to the auto show. Have fun in this industry again.
And what I love about the New York show is, you know, so many people here in the city of Manhattan don't even own a car. But I can't believe they are just car crazy in this town.
Well, and you've got California, where they have the most draconian rules against cars, and you have the hottest car culture in the world. So I'm hoping that we don't give up on our belief that cars are a big part of our lives, and it's made us a great nation. There was a letter to the editor yesterday in the New York Times saying the cars are the responsible for everything bad in this country, from trade deficit to our dependence on oil to the reason people are fat. This guy blamed the cars. And to be honest, what cars did to this country is created our middle class, which is the defining thing that sets us apart from all these socialist countries in Europe, is our middle class. And I'm done preaching.
Hey, let's segue here, because we've got another guest that's joining us today, Nina Beckhardt. Nina, come on up here and take a seat.
Did you get your own beer?
I did pour some. So sit in the middle here, Nina. You take the microphone that we've got here for you. You got to keep it close to your mouth.
Got it.
And you and Jason can share that one. But people may remember we've had Nina on the show before. She's got a company here in New York called the Naming Group. You're what? President, CEO?
Founder.
Yep.
Oh,
keep that mic
is that
close
okay?
there. Yeah, that's
okay.
good.
So I'm the president and founder of the Naming Group. We're a New York-based naming agency. Do everything from financial to automotive, building naming strategy and subsequent product names as well.
So just so those who don't know, Nina claim to fame right at the moment in automotive is she named the Chevrolet Sonic. It had been the Aveo, which I thought was a terrible name because people constantly mispronounced it. It was Aveo or Aveo or Aveo, and you came up with Sonic.
Right. I mean, that was such a smart move on their part. You know, what we do is really look at the collective effect of each of the car names. So not just does that one kind of sound good, does it pop on its own, but you look at something like Aveo and it didn't fit in with any of the other, you know, people in that family, if you will. One of these things is not like the other, I guess they say. So, you know, it was the only coined name in that lineup. So when they were revamping Aveo, it was time for a new name. So, you know, and just a little background on Sonic. When they first started to tell me about this car, it's a small car. We don't want it to be a chick car. I'm thinking Jack Russell Terrier, sort of. Like, it's not the size of the dog in the fight and the dog. So it's this tiny, tiny machine, but it's so powerful. So that's sort of where that name, you know, is really strong, because you have Sonic, you're thinking Sonic Boom, you're thinking things that are really large and...
No, everybody's thinking about hamburgers like Sonic hamburgers.
Or Sonic the Hedgehog.
Or Sonic the Hedgehog, exactly right. So come on, get real. There's a lot more to it than just Sonic Boom.
This is true. Generational, depending on what age you're talking to, for sure. But
what I like too is what you've told me is you don't just come up with a name like this sounds cool, Sonic, but you start to get into a whole lot deeper philosophy of what they're trying to do with the car, what they're trying to go long term with it. So explain that.
So a lot of people think about what we do as sort of sitting around a with a pot of coffee and brainstorming, or beer, or whatever substance, you know, gets
Yeah,
you.
beer.
Yeah.
Beer, you know
And
it.
name storming. And, you know, that creative name generation part is certainly a piece of it, but before we start any of that, it's, like you said, it's understanding the heart and soul of the car. It's also really understanding, where does the brand overall want to go? Where does Chevy want to go? Where does Kia want to go? And then channeling that into each and every name. So each name has to serve two purposes. It has to embody what the vehicle itself is, but then it also is going to be this representative of the entire brand. So it's a lot of strategy. And then the whole other piece to that is, you're talking with these executives that are doing 6,987 things every day and flying all over the world, and they all have to agree on it. So that's where,
That's the hard part, right?
That's naming therapy. That's where that comes in. So
Naming therapy?
Yes.
What do you mean?
It's a lot of decision maker counseling at that point. It's a lot of, you know, there's engineers that have to like the name. Sometimes there's designers. Sometimes, if you're lucky, there's just one or two decision makers. But there could be
hopefully no public relations people.
Oh God,
Well,
yeah.
Wait, take the mic.
We actually, when we talk about names, we'll kind of research to find out if there's a bad implication of that name, or if the name came from, I know from fact on a couple things at Chrysler, where the name came from something that was racist in the past.
Yeah.
And it became a part of our lexicon, but we didn't know the original roots of the name. And so we got to be very careful about that. So, we have a say usually.
So have you ever been involved in naming any vehicles?
The Nitro, the Dodge Nitro, which is no longer existence. Some thought it was, there's Americans, again, obsessed with explosives. We poo-pooed that. When we named the Dodge Caliber, which has been replaced now by the Dodge Dart, bringing back an old name, the Caliber, the European folks in Chrysler were saying, don't use Caliber. Caliber sounds, once again, like bullets. You Americans, all you do is kill people. And we told them to shove it. We like Caliber. But, some of the names, to be honest, are just made up. And they're kind of silly. I mean, when I was at Nissan, they had the Xterra. Great car, great SUV, and thank God it was a great SUV, because it overtook a bad name and became car of the year, truck of the year.
Yeah.
The year we launched it. But I forgot what they were going to name. They came up with some other really wimpy names, and we said, okay, Xterra is better than these wimpy names for this tough SUV. So, but she knows everybody's an expert in this field.
It's so
subjective. It's like advertising.
Yes, it's so subjective. It's funny you say Dodge Nitro, and I'm looking at their current namescape in my mind. Namescape is the collection of car names, or really for any brand, the collection of names, how they work together to support the overarching brand. So for us, sort of the golden namescape of the automotive industry, we always talk about, at least at this moment, is Dodge, because they, you think about what they've formed their brand to be. Just pure machismo, muscle car, very unapologetic. And you look at their names, and it perfectly backs that up. It's Challenger, it's Avenger. There's so much
Charger,
aggression. Exactly.
Viper.
Exactly. And even Dart, too.
Dart in the eye.
Yeah, it's exactly. So they can carry that so well, and I really respect that. And I think consumers do, too, because it sets up such a perfect platform for their advertising. They had, forget the name of the campaign, but it was all about masculinity and being a man. It was last year, I think. I'm forgetting it, but it's such a great platform,
And we talked about bad names too through the years.
Oh yeah, well that's what I want to get into right now, because knowing that we were going to do this show, I reached out to some friends of mine in the business to submit some of their favorite all-time great names and the worst names. So I talked with Denise McCluggage, I don't know how many of you know her out there, Carl Ludvigsen, who we had on After Hours about a month ago over in London, Jim Hall, one of our all-time favorite guys, and Peter DeLorenzo. So I'm going to put you two on the spot. I'm going to ask you good name or bad name, and I'm going to throw some names at you, and I want you to tell me what you think is good. So I'll start out easy. Mustang. Use the mic.
Killer name. A quick story, when we were doing the Talon with Mitsubishi, and they had the concept vehicle in the studio, Iacocca came and looked at it and said, it looks pretty horsey. So Chrysler designers spent $1 million redesigning it and showed it to Iacocca 2 months later. And he goes, what happened to the previous design? They go, you didn't like it. He goes, I said it was horsey, like a Mustang. I loved it. So, great name. But more important, a great car. So
the two go together. Okay,
So-
Mustang.
That's a really good thing that you said that because, being a more pure naming expert and not so much on the pure automotive side, I am going to try very hard to separate the car from the actual name. And Mustang, from my point of view, is an incredibly strong name because when a car name evokes a visual in your mind, it's that much stickier. When I say Mustang, you all have a picture of a horse in your head. It's without question. When I say QXRTLPW, you don't really have a picture in your brain so much. So I think Mustang, for that reason, incredibly strong. And then you have that interplay of horsepower. The horse-drawn cart gave way to the car. It's a beautiful connection there.
Okay, let's jump around here. Rolls-Royce Phantom.
I mean, if you build a car that can carry a name like Phantom, good for you. Kudos, that's balls.
Kudos.
I respect that name.
I agree. Yeah, it's a...
Yeah.
So, but most people don't know what a Phantom is. Most
Okay.
people think Phantom of the Opera, and that's kind of cool.
Okay, Eldorado.
Dorado. It was a great name. Great name. But then was associated with a dying Cadillac brand that was only for old people. But I still think...
We're just talking names.
I love Eldorado. Because I love
Nina?
ELO.
Yeah.
So I think it's a strong name also just because you have foreign panache there. So even if people don't know what Eldorado is or where it is, it sounds sort of mysterious in that way.
Okay,
Foreign.
Mitsubishi Mini Ka lettuce.
Mini cow lettuce?
Mini Ka.
Crap.
Jason is shaking his head.
Crap. Just
shaking his
crap
head.
on toast. That's just horrible.
Crap on toast with lettuce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with lettuce. That's just horrible.
That was submitted by Jim Hall. I love that. Okay, the Sidekick. That was Suzuki.
Yeah.
So I want to speak to this one because the car is a little dorky. Like when you look at it, it's like, I don't know, it looks sort of like a little jacked up RAV4, right? But the name has power to it. It's like when you think of a sidekick, you think of comic books, you think of this little...
I think of a pal, somebody with me.
Yeah.
Here's my sidekick.
Exactly. And so for that
Companion.
reason, and because the car itself is sort of small and cute, I think that that name speaks to the apparent spirit of that car.
I'm so glad that my sons aren't the only ones smoking a lot of dope right now. I think it's a horrible name, Sidekick. Sidekick is you're the little brother. It's much like, I remember the Cobalt ad a few years by GM where it bumps into the Corvette. Cobalt, Corvette's little brother. Who wants to be the little brother? And that was a failed marketing campaign, and nobody wants to be a sidekick because you're always second fiddle. You never get the girl in the end. Loser.
See, I like the alliteration of it, or the sound of it. Sidekick. It's just starts soft, ends, sharp and hard. I like the sound of it. But I hear what you're saying, Jason. It's like, yeah, whatever. Okay,
In the same vein as the Aspire, I guess you're sort of that greater point. Like you're not quite there.
Yeah,
Who is the Aspire?
that was Ford.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that Kia-based car.
Well, and Ford also was famous for the Zephyr, which was just one of the world's dumb names. And thank God they killed that. And of course, it was a horrible car, too.
Okay, VW Beetle. The Beetle.
Again, so if you have a car that looks like what you can call, it's rare when you can do that, but the fact that it looks like a Beetle. And on top of that, if your car is so kind of memorable that it has an additional nickname on top of that, the Bug, too, that makes it sticky. So, I think that's rare when you can name the car based on the shape alone, and that's great.
I think you're right, and it was genius on their part because they gave it a fun-loving name. And remember, whose car was this? It was Hitler's car. So, and it overcame that. Nobody really remembered it was Hitler's car, but it was. And thank God they had a fun, and of course the bug stuff and everything. So, and the Love Bug movie, that was fun.
Okay, good or bad? Peugeot Bipper Teepee.
No comment.
It sounds like bad porn.
Okay, BMW Bavaria.
So, where did that come from?
Well,
is that the only named BMW that there is? I mean, where did, because none of the
You know,
other
that's a
ones...
good question. That's an excellent question. Yeah, that's one of the few times that
Your
instead of
Brandscape,
using...
right?
Yeah.
What about... I mean, yeah, it totally doesn't fit in. It's the black sheep. It doesn't fit in. So I was curious why they decide, yeah, let's name that one this time.
Yeah, instead of the letters and numbers that they typically
Yeah,
use.
and BMW, great company, great cars, known for the 3, the 5, the 7. Stick with it. Stick with success instead of going off on some stupid tangent. Usually when you're naming of regions, unless you have a consistency, Chrysler tried to go to the Sebring, you know, but they never keep consistent with it. And that lack of consistency goes back to your spot. But, I mean, Chrysler's had some great name. Town and Country, killer name, I think, because it's been so long. They got to move it from station wagons to minivans. So
Here's a couple of other ones that I like, too. The Geely B21 486.
just rolls off your tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the Daihatsu B-Pal 10th anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let's pick one more here. Which
Well,
brand
we were
have...
talking before the show started. Some really stupid names when you think about the implications. The GM Impact.
Dangerous.
Here's one for John. The Ford Probe. I mean, every guy over 45 feels that one.
What if you get rear-ended in an accident?
Yeah.
I mean, the Ford had just a few years ago the Terminator engine. You know, it's just you try to keep away, and your lawyers try to keep you away from those, fatal type of names.
Uh-huh.
Cool. Well, look, this is another good time for us to segue into another part of the show here, and we're going to do rapid fire. But what we're going to do is we are getting questions in. I can see them coming in here. But we got a live audience here, and we're going to give you guys first priority. So I'm going to have to borrow this mic here. But who's got a question that you'd like to ask as part of rapid fire? Okay, here we go. So tell us who you are first.
John Seiss, New York City. And my question is, what's ever happened to the Ford show? We never hear about it.
The SHO.
SHO.
Right.
Auto magazines never talk about it. They don't test it. But to me, it seems like it might be a terrific car.
Yeah. The Ford SHO, the Taurus. Any comments, Jason, on that? What? Oh, yeah.
They abandoned it a few years ago when times got lean. But I tell you what, those were always just powerful packages. And then they brought it back. Is it in existence now?
It's in existence right now.
I think it's part of what Mullally, some of the magic he did. Of hey, it's not a Ford 500, it's a Taurus. Let's be proud of some of the good things we've done. Once again, probably not a great name, but it was such a great car, right from that it became a great name, and Mullally saw that.
Yeah.
So, but
it's still around, but I think to your point, nobody writes much about it. You don't hear much reporting on it. Ford doesn't talk it up a lot. I'm not sure why they're not doing that right now. Maybe it's because they're putting their effort into some of the other new product that they have out. But that's a great question, and it is a great car. Who's next? Who's got a question here? Here we go. Again, tell us who you are and what's your question.
George from Brooklyn. Do you think Mazda could find another partner, or are they screwed? Also, let's go Mets.
He said, let's go Mets.
hey, Mets won, Tigers won.
All right.
Ninth inning.
Okay, so, the whole thing, can Mazda find another partner? What do you think, Jason?
I would think they don't need one.
I'm not sure I agree.
Which is sad. I mean, Ford's kind of said goodbye.
They divorced.
Yeah, and it's too bad because, Mazda had lost its way and then came back with some really great stuff. I mean, they've really got, I believe, great brand character and consistency. I don't know why Ford divorced them. Maybe it was just too tough.
Well, I think I can tell you that. Alan Mullally believes one Ford.
Yeah.
In fact, he almost killed Lincoln. They did get rid of Mercury. They got rid of Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo, Aston Martin, everything. Alan just wanted one Ford, and it was like, hey, you know, it's not one Mazda, boys, you're gone. And they haven't completely divorced. Ford still owns part of the company. But that's a great question, George, because I do believe that Mazda is going to need a partner. Everybody these days, when you've got to develop all this new technology to meet fuel economy standards, do this stuff all over the world, it's so expensive. To develop a new clean, cheap car today is a minimum of $1 billion, absolute minimum. And when you've got to do all kinds of new products and redo them literally every 4 years, that's why you see all these companies getting together so they can split the cost. I'm rather curious, would Mazda join with Peugeot and General Motors, which you know are just getting together? Why not add Mazda into that partnership? But good question, and I'm sure Mazda is globe-trotting right now trying to find a partner.
Absolutely, but I tell you what, I still think they have such a brand consistency, and they've done such a good job that it could be somebody scooping them up for pennies on the dollar and really feeling like they got a good deal.
No, I agree, and I'd say I haven't met anybody in the world who doesn't like Mazda. Everybody has got a favorable opinion of the company. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
And Nick from New Jersey. I have an issue with no manufacturers has taken a small wagon, dressed it up the way the Europeans take some of the Volkswagens, and said, yeah, it's not an SUV, but look how it goes and it gets amazing gas mileage. You know, don't call it a wagon, but really play it up, you know, and no one's done it. That's my question. What do you feel about that?
I love small wagons. I love wagons anyway. But, you know, wagons for much of our generation got a bad name. Why? Because at least in my generation, we all run around in our parents' car, which was a wagon, and when we grew up, we did not want a station wagon. And while they're still popular in Europe, and so many enthusiasts love those wagons, especially performance wagons, they just don't sell.
I'm glad we have two people that want wagons in the United States, because that's about three. Because, you know, at Chrysler, we came out with a Magnum.
Station wagon.
Which
I thought looked awesome.
I had one. It was cool, and it sold like nothing. They are inefficient for what they do, and that's why the minivans were the greatest thing since sliced bread when they came out. Suddenly, you could carry your kids and all your stuff, and you could walk in around the vehicle and so forth. And it was like, wow, how did we ever sell wagons? They sucked.
Yeah, but Nick's not talking about getting a minivan.
But you know, each manufacturer has tried here and there to do a wagon, and they just don't work here. But a lot of things that work in Europe don't work here. We're a different market.
But I think it could catch on maybe, because here's why wagons work in Europe. In America, everybody with a driver's license has got a car. In Europe, the household has one vehicle, and that one vehicle has got to do it all. You know, you got to commute back and forth, you got to go to the store, you got to get all this stuff. So wagons and hatchbacks are extremely popular in Europe because all the households have one car that have to do multiple duty. Well, in the U.S., as you see people's disposable income flatlining, and as you see the price of cars go up, I could see where we're not going to have multiple cars per household. Maybe go back to one. Maybe wagons will make it again in the future.
And let's remember, what killed the station wagon was fuel economy laws. Because these things weren't trucks, they're cars, and they didn't get the fuel economy that a sedan would get. So the automaker said, I'm going to get killed on CAFE with a station wagon. So they went by a way of people not wanting them anymore, and the automaker saying, I'm not going to make them anymore.
Who's next? Okay, here we go. Another one.
Hi, John. Robert from Brooklyn. Question about turbine engines. Now, Chrysler had developed it for about 30 years, and I remember reading that the Iacocca said it was almost ready for production in '81 when they had their financial problems. Anybody developing new turbine engines, the fact that it can run on multiple type of fuels in today's engine development?
Great question, and the question is, what about turbine engines? And there is some really interesting development going on right now. If you saw a concept car that Jaguar showed 2 years ago, beautiful sports car, I'm blanking out because it was a bunch of numbers and letters. Nina, sorry.
The CX-16. The CX-16, I believe.
I think you might be right on that. Yeah. And but anyway, you know how the Volt is an extended range electric vehicle where once you use up the juice in the battery, a little 4-cylinder gasoline engine comes on and it keeps you going. Well, Jaguar used 2 small turbine engines, not a gasoline engine, to achieve that. And these things are I mean, they're beautiful. You could probably put both of these turbine engines just about in a shoebox, or maybe a shoebox each. They're very tiny. So now the deal is they've come up with brilliant, it's called the Bladen turbine, because 2 brothers, I don't remember their first names, but Bladen is their last name. 2 British guys have developed the manufacturing technique to get these engines really, really small. I just talked with Ian Callum, who's the head of design at Jaguar here at the New York show. He said they're still looking at it, but they got to get the costs down. He says the technology is really promising because turbines can run on just about anything, any kind of liquid fuel. Literally, you could pour nail polish into it and they would run on that.
Do you have nail polish?
Well, let's not talk about that right now. But anyway, really good question, because there's a lot of interest in turbine engines, but they got to get the cost down
And
more.
I've seen the vehicle you're talking about, the Chrysler. It's in the Chrysler Museum. It's a gorgeous vehicle. It just wasn't practical. But what you're seeing in the technology today, I drive a Buick LaCrosse, 2 months old. It has the e-assist, the stop-start. I think 5 years from now, every vehicle sold in this country will have it. It's breathtaking. This big car gets 36 miles per gallon on the highway, and it's so smooth. It's seamless. You're going to see that. You're going to see fuel economy gains. Ricardo and AVL, their leaders say we can get 70% more efficiency out of an IC engine. It's almost like they talk about our brains, how we use like 5% of them. Well, I know 5%.
I use 2.5%.
But the gains that can be made in IC engines are monumental. Vehicles like the Volt that are a moonshot, you're going to see that technology growing and growing as we go to electrification. You're going to see natural gas vehicles. Probably first commercial, the big haulers where you can put natural gas stations along the freeway. You don't have to worry about the city. You're going to see that. It's just an incredibly exciting time right now in the development of technologies that we think are moonshots now, but 5 years from now it's going to be like the computer industry and how the cell phone industry developed and go, wow, I can't believe we got that far that fast.
Another question. All right.
Hi, my name's Jonathan Brown from Old Tappan, New Jersey.
All right, Jonathan.
My question is, you've seen the show. We haven't gotten there yet. What was the most important car and what was your favorite?
Okay, I'll start. Most important car. That's so hard to say. I have about 4 or 5 most important cars. Like I said, and we talked about earlier, Chevy Impala, man, they got to flip that from 70% fleet to 70% retail. Toyota proving to the world that it can do emotional design. Nissan taking its best-selling car, and I'm telling you, this thing's at the top of the class right now. Infiniti coming out with a pure electric vehicle. This is essentially a rebodied Leaf, but still an important one. The Viper at the opposite end of the spectrum for them. And we didn't even really talk about the new Ram pickup truck and the fact that they chose the New York show to intro this. And I'm like, what are you guys, crazy? Why don't you go down to Texas or something like that to intro this? I didn't know this. I don't know how many of you do. The greater New York area is the 4th biggest pickup truck market in the country. I never knew that before. And 27% market share for Ram in this area. So that's why they chose to do it. So I haven't really answered your question, Jonathan, but I'm going to give the mic to Jason and we'll see what he says.
You've got to realize, first of all, this is the first time in a long time that all the automakers are doing pretty well. That's important. It's important for this country and our economy. It's the one bright spot, maybe one of 2 bright spots. Certainly, you're right. The Impala is a big deal. I didn't get to see the Avalon. That's a big deal, though, because that's been a, quote, old fogey car for too long. And with the Toyota genius and their quality and stuff like that, they deserve to have some breakout design. Chrysler's got its mojo back. That's cool. The Dodge Dart's important because it replaces a car, the caliber, that was just horrible. Just a horrible product. I'm seeing some life from Honda. I'm seeing Lincoln. You know, it's been criticized by others. I think it's really, They're putting the money in Lincoln, and I think that's important. I'm glad Mercury's dead. You really have a strong Ford Motor Company getting better, and I think I think it's the golden era again. We're starting, and hopefully, and we're getting better fuel economy. Safety is incredible in these vehicles. We're getting small cars with 10 airbags, and when you look at the price, it's amazing how affordable these things are now that leasing is back and affordable. I bought a Cruise for my daughter a few months ago. Paid no money down, $198 a month. I paid that for my Mazda 626 in graduate school in 1982, $198 a month. That's incredible. Now, unfortunately, gas is killing us, the gas prices, and they're not going south. They're probably going to go north for a little while as we get into the summer months anyway. So fuel economy is going to be key, and these guys are all, and gals are all answering it. They're coming up with some incredible numbers of the Impala getting 35 miles a gallon, 33.
I don't think they announced it yet.
I think they promised 30-some plus. I mean,
no, it's going to be right with your LaCrosse because they're using the same e-assist in there, so it'll be at least 36.
Who would have thought you could get this? And they're making breakthroughs. Unfortunately, the government has a tendency to force them to do some things unnatural that hurt safety, but these guys are doing it smartly, and these cars are only going to get better.
Yeah. One last question, anybody? One last one? Okay.
With all the,
who are you?
Oh, I'm Michael Kuchavik. I'm from Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley area. Out of car companies like Ford and Dodge are both coming out with the Dodge Dart SRT, which is a turboed 4-cylinder, and so is the Focus ST. How do you think they're going to do compared to like the WRX, which is all-wheel drive, versus the front-wheel drive? And I think the Dodge Dart's front-wheel drive.
I think the Dart's going to do great. You know, when the Neon SRT4 really was one of the funnest cars on the planet. When you think about it, the Neon was a garbage vehicle. It was poorly made. For its size, it got lousy fuel economy. It was cute at first, but the SRT4 was just a pocket rocket, and it was so much fun. And I'm sure Ralph will do that with the SRT4 in a Dart. It's for people your age until you get too many points on your license. It makes driving fun again, and I think having those little niches when they can do it to keep young people interested, so we can knock down this canard that young people don't like cars. I think they have to keep that passion going.
Yeah, I would say it's very telling that Ford and Dodge both want to come out with small performance cars to compete against something like the WRX. My guess is they'll outsell it, simply from the fact that Ford has way more dealers than Subaru does, and same with Dodge too, way more dealers. They're going to put a lot more marketing dollars behind it than what Subaru's been able to do. But I love the WRX, and I love the fact that there's more competition coming for it. But hey, another segue in the show. We're getting close to wrapping up right now, but I really wanted to talk to Robert here again, who manages Katz's, this great deli that we're doing our show live from in New York City. And tell us a little bit about this place, because if I understand right, it's been here since 1888.
That's right. That's right. It's been in business for 124 years. Excuse me. And it's been in a neighborhood that's always associated with new immigration. And even today, you still have new immigrants that still come to the Lower East Side. But we're relatively close to Ellis Island. And so it's the oldest deli in New York, the largest, and we still pickle our own meats and pickle our own pickles and hand carve our own sandwiches, and we still do things the right way.
And your family's been involved with this place a long time, right?
Correct. My family actually used to own. My great uncle was one of the original partners and sold 24 years ago to Alan and Fred, who you met Alan before.
We met Alan at the top of the show.
And now
right?
Jake is the next generation, Alan's son, who's going to be taking over. And my family is still involved. My brother works here, my wife, and myself.
Okay, your wife's right here. Tell us who you are and what do you do here?
Well, I'm the bookkeeper at night, and we, do other things. I'm also one of their vendors, so we sell to them. That's how we met.
Is that right? You met here At
Correct.
Katz's?
Absolutely.
That's terrific. So, I mean, this has got to be a labor of love, and I'm sure labor is the right part of it, too, right?
Yes, it is.
It's got to be an awful lot of work to run this place.
It is. It's fun. It's hard work, but we enjoy what we do, and we enjoy serving the public. And when we've been hosts to presidents and celebrities over the years, we've had presidents, and President Clinton was here for like 2.5 hours one day.
2.5 hours.
Yep. Before he became a vegan.
Oh, I didn't know that. He's become a vegan?
Yes, he has.
Oh,
Yes.
oh wow. Clinton. You don't believe it? Jason is shaking his head. Jason is shaking his head in disbelief that Bill Clinton's a vegan.
But he was here with all the representatives of New York politics. He came in, and we had Mikhail Gorbachev was here, and they filmed a lot of movies and TV shows. We recently had Tom Selleck doing Blue Bloods. Was here, and
of course the one that everybody knows is
Harry Met
Sally.
Harry Met Sally actually took place on the store's 101st anniversary.
Unbelievable.
In around 1989. And we were already an institution at that point. And of course, that sort of led to other movies like Donnie Brasco and Enchanted. And we had Offbeat with Judge Reinhold, and they had Contract on Cherry Street with Frank Sinatra. That actually predated Harry Met Sally.
Oh, yeah, sure it did. Yeah, you bet it did.
Right.
And what I love is, just so everybody knows, is they sent us back in Detroit a big care package with pastrami and corned beef and pickles and rye and mustard.
It all started from George from Brooklyn's comment.
Yes.
He called in and he says, "I love your news that you say, but you don't have good pastrami in Detroit." So I said to my boss, I said, "Well, why don't we send them some good pastrami?" And that's how, you got that care package, and that's when you and Peter had the Cars and Katz's and Cars episode.
That's right. That's right. And I just love the fact that you guys love the show.
We love your show. My wife and I listen to it all the time. We love your insights, and it's really, just very informative. We respect your opinions. We feel that you are very knowledgeable in what you do, and your guests that you bring on, and your partners, and
my partners in crime.
They are false advertising because it's not corned beef; it's a corned cow. There's an entire cow on each sandwich. I've never seen this much meat.
And technically, it's corned beef.
Yes.
What you're doing is you're corning the brisket and making it pickled.
I hope my wife's not watching because this is Lent for us Greek Orthodox. I'm eating meat when we're done with the show.
Right. Well, Robert, thanks so much for having us.
Our pleasure
into
for
Katz's.
coming here.
This is a thrill for me. It really is.
Thrill for us too to just
We're
have you here.
representatives of your fan base that has come, and the ones that didn't, come or were able to come. But we're big fans of yours, and we want to wish you, continued success.
Thanks again so much. Thank you, Kathy. Really appreciate
very
it.
much, yes.
Okay, that's great. Well, and I want to thank everybody who showed up here tonight. It's fantastic to see some of the faces behind the names that we've known for so long, and want to thank everybody who's watching us live right now or going to be listening to us on the podcast. Thank you all for having been here. This is a night to remember. That's again, just to go through some of the things we have to go through. Want to thank the folks who made this broadcast possible tonight. Nissan and Lincoln, Live View for making the technology possible for us to bring this to you. Of course, the people at Katz's Delicatessen. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be seeing you again next week.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, your journey, our passion, and by Chevrolet. Chevy runs deep.